what would you say were the issues for your party during these elections? Because
the issues, yeah?
Yes, because a lot of people would say that it was overshadowed, whatever the issue should have been in terms of, you know, what the Osun people were going to get if your party had won, were overshadowed by these allegations and counter-allegations, which your party was also not exonerated from.
You mean allegations about threats of violence and so on and so forth?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, well, if you were there on the ground, you probably wouldn't say that. The outside world probably focused on that. And of course, the APC leaders themselves, particularly from outside Osun State, would focus on that. As far as we're concerned, on the PDP side, we didn't focus on that. We got on with the job, and we raised issues during the course of the election, issues that ought to have been raised, issues about the fact that Osun State, for example, is owing 483 billion naira over the last 4 years, has borrowed that money, is now owing that. Issues about, you know, whether or not contracts were actually completed, whether anything had been commissioned in the state in the last 4 years in terms of contracts and so on and so forth, buildings and roads and so on and so forth. These are the fundamental issues touching and concerning the lives of the people of Osun State. And these issues were well canvassed, well argued, by both candidates, I might add, Yola Omishore and Rauf Aregbesola, and their supporters and those behind them. And these were the issues that were important to us. Now, some people may want to talk about the fact that, let me put it to you like this. If APC had lost the election, I'm sure that they would have said this was not a free and fair election because there was police presence there. But they won the election. Why don't they say the same now? Why are they saying it's free and fair?
No, but I think some of them are saying that there was that over-militarization.
You can't have it both ways. I mean, the fact remains that they won the election. Fine, all well and good. Some of us concede that. I concede that. Now, if they had lost that election, I put it to you, that they would have said that this was not a free and fair election. Look, you can't have it both ways.
But remember, they complained about arrests of their members. In fact, I think yesterday, if I remember properly, we had a guest who said one of them was arrested, and it was until after accreditation, so the chap could not vote.
Okay. Well, that is a very serious allegation, and if it is true, it needs to be looked into. Nobody is in the business of defending the indefensible, and nobody has the right to deprive a fellow Nigerian of his right to vote. I would never support such a thing. But the question then has to be put, why did it happen if it happened? How many people did it happen to? Was it an isolated event? Did they find something that caused arms or whatever? I mean, you know, it depends on the case, but I certainly wouldn't support such a thing. But what I'm saying is that there are always errors here and there. Anything that has human beings involved, there are always issues here and there. But by and large, as far as I'm concerned, it wasn't over-militarized. Look, you can dramatize this as much as you like. You can come out with the propaganda, and the APC is very good at it. I mean, like, they're the best, you know, when it comes to such things. And come out and say, well, you know, we won the election, but it was militarized, and, you know, we were intimidated, our people were threatened, and the securities were working for the other side, and yet we still won, and so on and so forth. But as far as I'm concerned, you know, that is an inappropriate approach to the whole thing. They won the election, or we believe they won the election, all well and good, but this was an expression of the will of the people of Osun State. It was a close election. It was an election that was fought very hard by both sides, a credible campaign on both sides, and the numbers are very, very close. And we believe strongly that if we continue like this and there's peace in our state, by the time we have another governorship election in the state, we will certainly beat the APC, whoever they field at that time.
So if you think your party lost fair and square, I mean, if your candidate goes to court, would they have a chance?
Well, that depends on the evidence that's adduced. Like I said, I haven't had the opportunity to sit with Yola Omishore yet, or the party leadership of the state. We just came back. I left Osun on Sunday. I'd be interested to know, and I'll certainly find out. But, you know, they're in a better position to know than me because they've sat down and they've discussed all these things and they've exchanged notes. Now, if there are issues that can be raised in court to show clearly and categorically that this was not a fair election, I think it's the right and proper thing for him to do is to go to court and explore. In any case, it's good to exercise your civil rights and your civic duties. If you feel wrong, you go to court. That's the way to do it. Not to ask your supporters to march in the streets. Let me give you an example of what could have happened. You know, the minute the election results were confirmed by INEC, I went to Osun when I came back to Ile-Ife, and honestly, the town was charged. I mean, just one word from our leaders, from those of us that were leading on the PDP side in the town, the place would have erupted, because people were in the streets, particularly around Omishore's house, and they were saying, oh, they wouldn't accept, and it took an appeal by the PDP leaders in the state to all these young men and women to say, look, calm down, it's just an election, it's not a war. The results are out, we'll look at it, and if we feel that anything has gone wrong, we will go to court. That's the way forward. So I do not begrudge the PDP at state level, Omishore, for going to court at all. And I wish him well. Like I said, Aregbesola exercised that right from 2007. And he ended up winning 3.5 years later. Let's wait and see what happens.
But should this be the way elections should be conducted? I mean, 2015 is around the corner.
Yeah.
The security present and all of that. Is that what we're going to expect?
I would rather have, like I said earlier, strong security on the ground. Let me put it like that.
But do we have enough personnel to do that?
That would be a question best put to the president and to the commander-in-chief. I sincerely hope that he does, because what we need to do is to ensure a free and fair election. I would rather have that than a return to the old days of killing, maiming, castration, intimidation, and so on and so forth. Whatever it takes for us to ensure that the Nigerian people are allowed to express their views and cast their votes freely and fairly, I think that's what we need to do. And I think the government has done very well in that respect. Your man
Digbita says, you said you were privy to some security reports. He says to ask you what position you hold now about it.
About what?
The security report you said you were privy to, I guess.
What position I hold about the security reports? I've already expressed that here. What I said was that it was based on the question that was put to me about Obanikoro's assertions during a press conference, and I was saying that I shared his views and I shared his concerns simply because I happened to be privy to some of the reports and so on and so forth that he had communicated to me. And not just him, a lot of our party leaders were quite privy to some of these things. Even the APC leaders at the state level, particularly the governor, some of the people around him were also, because they were informed. And a lot of work was going on behind the scenes to ensure that we had a good election and a credible election and nobody was hurt. And like I said, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. There may have been a few arrests here and there for whatever reasons. That's for the security agencies to explain. But by and large, this was a good election. We should commend the government. We should commend INEC. I also said that earlier. We should commend the government. We should commend the security agencies. And most important of all, we should commend...
and INEC did pretty well in this election.
In my view, subject to whatever we may produce in court, but as far as I'm aware, they did very, very well.
Obafemi Adeniran says before the results was announced, you posted on your Facebook page that PDP was winning, even while they were losing.
No, you see, this is the problem with some of these people. They get on Twitter, they get on Facebook, they don't. That I didn't post it on my Facebook page. I made a clear and categorical statement to Premium Times, which is a website magazine which is highly respected. And what I did was that Sahara reporters had come out with all the results by that time. This was the night before the official announcement. Now, at that point in time, we had our own situation room in Ile-Ife at Omishore's campaign headquarters. We had our own people working. At that time, when the APC had declared to the whole world that they had won, at that time, they had only counted 880 polling booths throughout the state. Only 880. And as at that time, I think it was around 10 p.m. Or 8 p.m. the night before, we were ahead by 4,000 votes because we were counting ourselves. And I verified this. And I asked him, look, are you sure? I was with the candidate that evening. And Premium Times called me and I said, look, as far as we are concerned, at this point in time, we are ahead. Now, anything could have happened after that. And in any case, I think it was inappropriate for anybody to be saying they have won an election before INEC came out with their numbers, which was the following morning, I think at 6 a.m. or so on and so forth. And many of us felt that it was wrong. You see, let me tell you the danger with this. A lot of people don't quite understand the implications of it. If, for example, they continue to count, say 10 o'clock the night before, APC had told the whole world and all their supporters in the state that they had won the election, as they did. If by the following morning things had changed and INEC came out with different numbers and different figures, and then said PDP won, you know what would have happened? The whole state would have gone up in flames. And some of us felt that they were preparing the ground for such a thing simply because they felt that there was still a possibility they may lose, and then they'll say the whole thing was rigged and over-militarized and so on and so forth. And we need to be sensitive. So I think it was appropriate and important for us to point out the fact that you shouldn't be saying so-and-so won at any point in time until INEC comes up with the figures.
Do you think that should be directed at media houses, or you think that was the handiwork of the APC?
No. I think it should be directed. I think it should be directed. Well, first of all, the APC, the ones that collated, they were the ones that were coming up with these figures. I don't blame the media houses for erring, but I think there ought to be a certain level of responsibility about this. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's important that we should always wait for INEC. We can all say we are winning, but to say we have won and to tell the whole world we've won 20 local government areas, the night before, even if you feel you have done so, even if you feel that that is likely to be the case, I think it's a little bit dangerous, simply because if you're not right or you've got your numbers wrong and something else happens the following morning, the whole state will just go up in flames.
All right. We have to thank you for coming on. We've been speaking with Mr. Fani-Kayode, a member of the People's Democratic Party and the former Minister of Aviation, on the outcome of the Osun elections. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much. Thanks.